Welcome to our presentation here at the Baal Shem Tov Library. Thank you for inviting me. We're going to discuss how to live a life devoid of stress, worry, anxiety. Now, if you notice the advertisement, that this is called an alternative approach to mindfulness. And seeing that was the title of the presentation, we'll just have to go into this whole concept. And just a little background. You know, America is a very stressful society. Everyone has their therapist, and really what we're realizing is people are just making themselves crazy, that really they don't have to be living this way. It's all in your head. So everyone's coming up with different approaches how to relieve this. So there's an approach called mindfulness. And we're going to talk about this alternative approach to mindfulness based on Hasidus. But the approach to mindfulness is really based on a kind of Eastern meditation in which a person is going to have a moment-by-moment awareness of the present moment. And that's going to relieve the stress, worry, anxiety. Because when a person is focused on the moment, the past is a distant past. So most of our worries and our stresses are based on past moments, missed opportunities, failures, that we're now worried of the future consequence. However, should a person, not be so connected to what happened in the past, more focused on what is here now, not only is the past a distant past, but all the feelings of anguish, of past failure, any worry you have of past things that happened is also distant. And the future has yet to be. So there's no anxieties what will be in the future. And you just focus on the moment. The only question is, how do you get into that moment? Now, mindfulness would have you do these Eastern meditations, focus on breathing techniques, kind of bodily sensations, but this is not Yiddishkeit. What we're going to discuss is a very particular Jewish approach, a Hasidic approach on how to relieve stress, worry, anxiety by coming to a moment-by-moment awareness from a completely different angle. But even before we talk about that, let's just talk about the entire Jewish approach to relieving stresses and worries and anxieties. That you have in Chumash, in Bamidbar, that Shem tells Moshe Rabbeinu as he's being confronted with Og Melech Bashan, it's going to attack the Yidden, not to be afraid, right? Al Tira. Why? Because in your hand, I'll place him in your hand, and this is where we learn that you shouldn't be afraid. That you might have reasons to have an emotional reaction of fear and worry, anxiety, and we have a mitzvah of the Torah not to be afraid. Why? Because it's an Eibishter. Hashem will take care of everything. And this is the basis of all Yiddishkeit. That you're not in control of your own life. There's a God that's in control of your life. And by definition, God is good. So everything that's going to happen is going to be good. He's going to put everything in your hands.
Yaakov Avinu was afraid of Esav.
Yeah, right. Whenever they have,
he was not worthy or something.
Right. Whenever we see that the avos, the tzaddikim of Yiddishkeit are afraid, so they always take it out and translate it that they're afraid from other reasons. They're afraid they didn't have enough merits. They're not afraid about maybe Hashem really would save them, but they're not meriting that salvation, or whatever it is. But the only thing is that when all this is really coming from the Sichas and discourses of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and the Rebbe would point out that that even though you'll have Chazal explaining why they're worried, but just as you read the Chumash, simple taish, it doesn't go out of its simple meaning, and they're afraid. At least the way not on their own they're afraid, but how we're going to read the Chumash talking to us, we're going to understand that they're afraid and we shouldn't be afraid. Because it's Eibishter. So that is the very basis of Yiddishkeit, to have this kind of bitachon, this trust in Hashem. The only thing is, how are you going to build this trust in Hashem? Right? How is a person going to build this trust in Hashem?
Not easy.
So this is not easy. This is where you need some kind of approach. Right? You need some kind of philosophical, theological approach to life that will build that trust in Hashem. So you'll have, different approaches. You'll think about how Hashem always is good to you. So just as He's good to you now, He'll be good to you later. And a lot of these approaches, I'm talking from personal experience. I bought into all this hashkafa that we should trust in Hashem. He's all good, but I could never conquer my nervousness. And I never knew why. Even though I'm a believing Jew, right? And yet I couldn't do it. I was trying to figure out what's wrong with me. So it's very interesting. If you start to go into the Rebbe's sichas, the Rebbe points out in a certain sicha an example by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe. And there we know the Frierdiker Rebbe is a very amazing personality because he suffered all the trials and tribulations of Holocaust, of Stalin, this and that. And yet those who were with the Frierdiker Rebbe always saw that he was never mispoiled. He was never emotionally affected by things going around him. Right? People would be in the blitzkrieg of Poland, being bombed, every building's being bombed, everything's shaking, and he would always be calm. And the Frierdiker would write a diary, recording his thoughts, and these are all printed now. Lukutei Diburim, you have it, but someone, Rabbi Metzger, put everything together in the Heroic Struggle, an English book by Kahas, beautiful book, and you can see from the Frierdiker Rebbe's diary how he's dealing with things. And a lot of the stories we have of the previous Rebbe and how he was not affected by what was going on around him, we have from these books. And the Rebbe points out a certain example of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And it's very hard to emulate the Frierdiker Rebbe because he's a tzaddik.
He's a what?
A tzaddik.
Tzaddik.
He's beyond us. He's completely righteous. But in this one sicha, the Rebbe actually tells people they should be like him. And then adds a little detailed explanation of what they should be thinking to be like him. And once I read that discourse, that sicha, it was all clear. And the way I found this sicha was in a footnote. Right? There's some people who are just bucky in all the Rebbe's sichas, but I found it in a footnote. I was learning about this. This led me to this footnote, that led to this footnote. And then as I went from footnote to footnote, sicha, and putting things together, it developed into 6 steps to living the moment. As each sicha laid the basis for the next sicha. So in this sicha, the Rebbe discusses how the KGB is closing in on the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. And everyone's getting very nervous because the KGB were very bureaucratic. So they would build these files against people, and as the files got thicker and thicker, at some point you knew you were going to be arrested. Somehow someone on the inside gave you the heads up, and that was the time to run. And you disappear. Right? When you would just run from home, wander Russia for 5-7 years until you can ever make contact with your family again, and you disappear. So that time had arrived for the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. But the Rebbe already committed that he's not running. He's here to fight Stalin, keep Judaism alive, all the underground yeshivas, underground shuls, and he's not running. But they knew that this was the time to run. This is the time they're going to get him. And based on everything happening in Russia, they pretty much assumed that he would probably be killed. And that particular day, the previous Rebbe was on a trip to Moscow. He's going to take a train to Moscow and organize the underground over there in Moscow. And the KGB knew about this trip.
Where it was that he went to Moscow?
Where was he at the time? Before he went to Moscow? Oh, you know something? Slips my mind.
The stove.
I really forget. It's true. Anyways, so he was going to be on this trip, and before he left, people were trying not to say goodbye, but they were getting brachas from him. They didn't know if they're going to see him again. It was very nervous, and eventually it was 2 weeks later, the whole story of the previous Rebbe getting arrested in the prison and then in Gullus. And that was 2 weeks later, but they thought it was going to happen then. So people were getting brachas from him, and it was very, very emotional time, high stress, worry, anxiety from the Hasidim. And it was about 20 minutes before the trip, and the previous Rebbe kind of retired to his study, and he was going to be there for until a cab was going to come and take him to the train. So the Rebbe at the time was his personal assistant, right, young Rebbe, son-in-law. So he figured he would check up on the Frierdiker Rebbe, see how he's doing. And I don't know exactly what the Rebbe expected to find, what situation the Frierdiker would be, in which the Rebbe was so surprised that he was so calm, right, as the Rebbe is going to describe it. But we could just imagine that if we would be in such a situation, we'd be davening, we'd be pacing back and forth, we'd have shpilkas, we wouldn't be able to sit still, not focus. So the Rebbe went to the Frierdiker Rebbe to see how he's doing. And he found the Frierdiker Rebbe in complete peace and serenity, balancing certain accounts as if nothing in the world existed except what he was doing at that moment. And the irony of it was the balancing of the accounts were things that didn't have to be done for 3 weeks. It was preparation for something that's going to happen in 3 weeks. And it was just so ironic because, if the Frierdiker would be arrested, who knows if he'd be around in 3 weeks? Why are you going to busy yourself with such a thing? And he was so calm and peaceful, he barely even recognized that the Rebbe was in the room when he came. So the Frierdiker Rebbe noticed the Rebbe and asked him, what do you want? Why did he come? And the Rebbe couldn't believe it. So much, that's how you have to be. You have to be so calm. As if you have nothing else to do in the world except be busy, and I should come in the room. It's like you don't even recognize the Rebbe. How could it be? So then the previous Rebbe went into a whole explanation that whenever he's busy doing something, he acts as if nothing else exists. Nothing else. Right? Nita b'metzias, it said in Russian Yiddish. Nothing else is in existence except that which he's doing. And because of that, he has no distraction. He has no worry. He's clear of mind. And he can focus on what he's doing. And he says he has hatzlacha b'zman. And everything he does goes with much more success, is much more efficient, and everything just comes together. Fine. Now that was a story that happened in 1927. That's the Frierdiker Rebbe. Also, when he was in the Blitzkrieg, they have videos. What was it like with Frierdiker and Blitzkrieg? Same story. The bombs are falling. They're carpet bombing all Warsaw. The building would shake so much, and the Frierdiker Rebbe was trying to busy himself writing a mimer, a discourse in Hasidus. The building would shake so much that the ink would spill because of the shake, and the bomb would be literally right there, and parts of the building would collapse, and everyone would scream Shema Yisrael, everyone's crying, frantic, and the Rebbe was just quietly cleaning up the ink and continuing to write. No screams, just a little annoyance that the table would shake, and he would just keep on doing it, as if nothing else existed. And they asked him, Rebbe, how could you be so calm? So the Rebbe said at the time that every bomb has its address, and ours is not on it. So there's nothing to worry. So he'll just keep on writing. Because nothing else existed at that moment except his mind where he had to write. I gave him in your hand. It's in our hand. We have nothing to worry about these bombs. Frierdiker Rebbe lived like that all the time. Fine, so that's Rebbeisha things.
Not for us.
Not for us. That's Rebbeisha things. That's not for us. Except the Rebbe points out that he was telling this story as a tangent in the middle of a sikha. And why did he bring out this tangent? Because there were certain Israeli Hasidim that were in the Farbrengen, and they had a plane to catch. Right? Now this plane, if we can imagine, let's say it was leaving at 7 o'clock at night, so you'd have to get there, back 1970 this was, right? This is a Sikha Chav Shvat Tafshin Lamed and Sikhas Kodesh. So it's back in 1970, so let's say, before this TSA, they had to get there an hour early, half-hour drive to Crown Heights. So let's say they had to catch the cab at 5:30. And this Sikha that I was giving was an impromptu surprise Sikha. So people didn't schedule their time for it. It just happened. And these Hasidim that had to catch the plane figured they'd chap arayin, they'd come to the Sikha, and in the middle they'd leave because they had to catch a plane. And the Rebbe noticed that as he's talking to the crowd, in 1970 it wasn't like the Farbrengens you see in the late MEMS, right? The late 1980s. But still there was easy 1,000 people in the room. Maybe it wasn't 4,000, but at least 1,000 for sure. So he sees nervous people looking at the clock. And he calls them out because they had made a deal that they're going to give each other the wink and they're going to leave the Sikha early to catch the plane. And the Rebbe says, "Yeah, I see people are staring at the clock and they're nervous." And he makes a little fun of them. That you had two types of people. One type are looking at the clock, and they're nervous because they know the time is coming to the time they have to leave. And there's other people that are trying to hold themselves from looking at the clock. But those people are even more nervous because they think the time has already passed, they don't know it yet. And he's making fun of them in the middle of the Sikha. And he tells them, this is not the way you should live. How should you live? Tells the story of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So then, after he tells the story of the Frierdiker Rebbe, telling them that that's how they should live, then the Rebbe adds a little more detail of exactly what they should be thinking. He said that right now, there is no Kennedy Airport. Right? Like the Frierdiker Rebbe. Nothing else exists except that moment. And there's no plane tickets, there's no trip, there's no LL plane. All there is this Farbrengen. Why? Because the Eibishter is creating the world Yesh Ma'ayin every single second. And at this moment, only the second exists, and nothing else.
So they'll lose money on the ticket.
So the Rebbe is telling, if a person, he says, even though we all believe this, but the Rebbe says you have to poil zech, you have to make this be real by you. If it's real by you, then you realize that LL plane in the future has yet to be created. The future does not exist at this moment. The past is long gone. So where's your worry? You're worried about something that doesn't exist. If a person would realize that, they'd be there and they're alone without stress or anxiety. And the Rebbe is telling them they have to be in this level. So now it's very interesting. Well, then the Rebbe continued on the Sikha. Notice that their nervousness didn't subside. Especially in 1970, you miss your plane, you kiss your ticket goodbye. It wasn't like, I'll just catch the next plane.
Yeah, it's big money.
Right? It was once a week plane, maybe max. And the ticket was 3 months' salary back in those days in Eretz Yisrael. So you missed your plane, you kissed a month and a half salary goodbye. This is, heavy stakes. So the Rebbe then saw they weren't holding on the level. They didn't, take B'pnimius what the Rebbe was saying. So he said, okay, so we'll try to end the Sikha, short, so let these people go so they shouldn't have to suffer so much. And the Rebbe cut the Sikha short. They ran out frantic for their lives. And of course, they missed that plane, right? They got there.
They missed it anyway.
No, they missed the time for the plane. They got there 7 o'clock and the plane's supposed to leave at 7. And they didn't know what to do. And they went to the counter, what. And lo and behold, the plane was held up. VIP treatment took them right to tarmac, put them on the plane last minute. And they realized, when was the plane trip created? when they left the Farbrengen. So that's from that sikha we learn that there's one detail to be able to trust Hashem and have no stress or anxiety, and to emulate that which the Frierdiker Rebbe experienced at the time, is that added point that Hashem's creating the world every single second. And not just to believe in it, but to actually affect that should be real by you. So now, what is this concept that Hashem's creating the world every single second in a way that it can be real by us? Well, the whole goal of Chabad Hasidus is to take concepts that we find by the Baal Shem Tov, right? This is one of the concepts of Baal Shem Tov. The Rabbi explains, actually it's a Midrash in Tehillim, but it just was emphasized by the Baal Shem Tov and brought out and as a main focus. But it's really, it's a Machadish B'tuva Kol Yom Tamid Ma'aseh Bereishis. It's right that the Eibishter, that's, we say that in davening. I mean, this is basic Judaism, but people don't say Machadish B'tuva Kol Yom Tamid Ma'aseh Bereishis. They say, and they miss it. So therefore you need a Hasidus to come out, bring it philosophically to the forefront, learn about it from this angle, that angle, and bring it to the forefront of our consciousness. And the way Chabad Hasidus does that is bring a mashal. Right? A mashal is going to give us an analogy, is going to create kind of a mental picture, image of the concept that we can see more tangibly in our mind, and we link it to the concept, and then we can kind of experience it in a different way, a more practical way. And Hasidus actually uses a concept in physics, in which you take a rock, has an initial state of inertia on the ground, it would never fly on high. If you take the rock and you throw it up, it's only going to fly on high if there's a power of a throw propelling it up. As soon as that momentum of the throw stops, the rock will fall back down. So, the Rebbe Shah explains in a mimer, same thing with our world. Our world also had an initial state, a state of nothingness. To get our world out of its state of nothingness into existence, into somethingness, much like there's a power of a throw that propelled the rock on high, there's a power of creation, a keach haboreh, a power of the Creator who's propelling the world to exist. And just like that rock only flies on high because of the power of the throw, the momentum pushing it up, and so it would stop, the rock would fall back down. So too with our world, every second it's being propelled to exist. And as long as, God forbid, Hashem should pull back that power of creation and cease to will the world to exist, poof, it would be as if the world never was. So every Machadish B'tuvay, the Eibishter is Machadish the world with his kindness. V'kol yom, tamid, every single second, kol rega rega, Ma'aseh Bereishis, the act of creation. If we would be cognizant of that mashal, that analogy, we would feel how nothing else exists except the moment, except Hashem's act of creation at this moment.
What happened Shabbos? What happened on Shabbos?
On Shabbos, no, Shabbos is still existing, but Menucha came to the world. But that's a different shir. But anyway, so the point is, so therefore, once I saw this in the Sikha, then I realized the missing Nekuda in my life was I wasn't aware of Hashem creating the world every second. I have to become aware of Hashem creates the world every second. By taking the Mashalim Hasidus, the analogies of Hasidus, and doing his Mindfulness, and meditating, contemplating on these concepts. And his Mindfulness is kind of like a lost art in Lubavitch, but there's different ways to do his Mindfulness. There's deeper ways and more superficial ways. And the most basic way to do his Mindfulness is literally to contemplate on a concept until you create a mental picture in your mind till you see it. Like you see that rock in the recesses of your mind being propelled up. And you make the analogy and imagine your mind, some kind of keach, some kind of force creating the world, Hashem's force, creating the world every single second, until you have this kind of a mental awakening. Because according to Hasidus, you have two levels of understanding something. Two levels of the intellectual process. You have Hokhmah and you have Bina. Now, how to translate Hokhmah is a good question. Bina is readily translated as that which is understood. It's the power of understanding. Bina is lines of logic, letters of thought. And what's Hokhmah? So Hokhmah is the initial flash of intellectual intuition that comes to a person before they analyze the concept in lines of logic and letters of thought. And the analogy would be that you have two people trying to figure out a difficult problem. And both people are drawing a blank. As much as they think, complete blankness is in their mind. And then suddenly one of them slams his hand on the table and says, I got it! So his friend's so shocked, so excited. Tell me, what'd you get? But instead of answering him directly and immediately, he closes his eyes, says like 1 minute, thinks a bit, and then explains it. Now this is a famous analogy given by Mishpiyim and Lubavitch to describe Hokhmah and Bina. Because the question is, if he was so sure he got something, that he'd slam his hand on the table and say, I got it. So say it right away. Why do you gotta close your eyes and think about it before you explain it? Say it right away. And if you can't say it right away, then what'd you get? What are you getting so excited about? So therefore, Hasidus explains that before a person has a pure understanding, Bina, of a certain subject, before they have lines of logic, letters of understanding and letters of thought, there's the initial flash, the Barak Mavrik, is what they call Hokhmah. Initial flash of intellectual intuition in which you see the concept abstracted from understanding in the recesses of your mind. And you see it. And you say, I got it. But it's yet to come down to lines of logic and letters of thought, to then being clothed in letters of speech, so I can explain it. So I need another step to bring it down into my thoughts. But in the initial stage, you see in the recesses of your mind. At that point, a person can have an emotional reaction. So this is the very essence of hisbonenus. Hisbonenus is from the word bina, lihit bonen, to reflexively think about something on the level of bina, deep contemplation. But the very essence of hisbonenus starts with seeing a mental picture of the concept in your mind. Even before you have pure understanding and pure, you're not a Talmud Chacham on the subject, as they say, right? You're not a complete expert on the subject, but you see in the recesses of your mind the truth. Then, until you bring it down. So a person would take these analogies of Chassidus, of this rock being thrown, as it's talking about the Eibusher creating the world every single second, and without having to be an expert in Chassidus, and all the details of time, of all the analogies of Chassidus and all the understandings, but just picture it in the mind, that you see it to be true. And that is the very basis of hisbonenus that will give a person an emotional awakening. Now this, just people are like, they like sources. So they have a 2-volume sefer, the Mashpia, Rav Shlomo Chaim Kesselman. He was a big Mashpia in Lubavitch, already from Tomri Tmimim in Rostov, right, in Russia, and bringing it to Kfar Chabad. So they have a 2-volume sefer that explains his whole Shita and Avodah, approach to Avodah, a section in hisbonenus, page 293. there you'll find the exact description of the Etzem Inyan of Zbainus, as I just described it, in which he just talks about how there once was Bachrim, after lunch, hanging outside, and they're putting the cement down for the sidewalk in front of the yeshiva. And there's all these machines that are churning the cement and pouring the cement. And 15, 16-year-old Bachrim, 17 maybe, watching interesting scene in Kfar Chabad. You don't get so many machinery in Kfar Chabad, so they get to watch this cement pour. So Rav Shalom Chaim used this as an analogy for his bainus, because what happened? They're looking so intently at these workers that when the workers left, the Bachrim closed their eyes and still see the workers in the head. They had that mental picture of the workers in the head. It's the same thing with Hasidus. A person learns, concepts of Hasidus, they create that mental picture, and they literally see the tzir, a picture of a Hasidus in their head. And from that, then they have the emotional reaction. So what I do with all this, that here I am supposed to trust Hashem, but yet I'm nervous. And then I see that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe is not nervous because nothing else exists except the moment. And the Rebbe tells the Hasidim they have to be in the same way. How? By realizing there's a God that's creating the world every single second. And there's all these analogies in Hasidus that you could create these mental pictures in your mind and have an emotional awakening and feel as if nothing else exists except the moment. So what do? So I started doing his bainus on these concepts and started to bring myself into a feeling as if nothing else exists in the moment. And then I started, but I'm the Chabad Shliach at Stony Brook University. So any inspiration I have for myself, I have to share. Right? This is, they say, the Kiruv movement, right? I have to share with all the Jews in my area, inspire them. So I scripted all this in English. And, because until I teach them the Sikha, it's Yiddish or it's Hebrew, it's a little complicated. And then we get too much into understanding, the level of Bina. I want that initial flash of intellectual intuition, which they see the truth, they feel the emotion. So we're not going to just work on giving over the discourses. I'm going to guide them through the thoughts, right? I'm going to guide them through this kind of thought process of thinking about this, thinking about that, the analogies of Hasidus, just to give them that gefühl, that feeling, that experience of being in the moment. And people liked it. And then word started getting around. There's a rabbi teaching people how to live in the moment. And more people came. And then non-Jewish people came. And everyone loved it. And now, thank God, I have a website, redefinetime.com. Hundreds of people, are being inspired. I think a couple of thousand people have already come to the classes in total. There's the numbers on the website we keep updating. And this could be a world of good as long as we live in that moment with Hashem, who's creating us every second, and we have nothing to worry about the past or the future, because Nasasi Otoy B'yadcha, Hashem will put everything in your hand. He'll take care of everything. And don't make cheshbon. It's really the way I would like Hashem to take care of me or not take care of me. It's Hashem taking care of us. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little guided Hisbonenus session. All this we just talked about, we're actually going to experience. And we're going to feel as if nothing exists except the moment. Does that sound good? Because you could talk about it all day long, but if it's in only Bina, only understanding, you shut the book and then you go on. It's not until it's nichkak b'moichei, it's engraved in one's mind, does it go with you. Because once it's engraved in one's mind, it's engraved in one's heart. And that's the whole goal of Hasidus. Sounds good? Now these are all English renditions of word-for-word translations of Sichos, Tanya, different things. We're going to go through the rock analogy. And so that's straight from the Rebbe Rashab, Tafresh Mem Gimel. and we're going to make the analogy of creation, and then we're going to think about what was before creation, get from Tanya. There's no Lamayla, no Mata, there's no up, no down, no right, left. All that was filling that void was the Ein Sof, which we're going to call it in a ever-pervading, I don't even know the language I say, it'll come out when I start talking, but it's an ever-pervading, infinitely expansive emanation of God, or Ein Sof, right, infinite. Then we compare that to our world, which is very finite. There is an up, there is a down. So therefore, we're going to talk about once there is a up, there is a down, everything is kind of detached. There's no achdus in the world, there's no unity. You don't feel Hashem in the world. And that's where we have all our little stress, worries, anxieties. And we ask, hey, what happened? What happened to the achdus Hashem? What happened to the Ein Sof? Where'd he go? It's not a problem by Hashem, it's not a problem. He's Kol Yachol. The true essence of Hashem is everywhere. From your eyes, you think He's not around. But from Hashem's eyes, He's right here with you. Because Hashem's not mugbal to being Ein Sof. Infinite revelation of God above. Could be in the Gashmias also, could be in the physicality. That's the essence of Hashem. The essence of Hashem in Chassidus is called, Chassidus refers to Etzem as essence, so Hashem is Atzmas. Hashem Atzmas Ein Sof. The essence of the Ein Sof. Hashem's true essence everywhere. It's not spiritual, not physical, it's everything. So therefore, we get to the true essence of Hashem. And of course, Chassidus always likes to build the real connection of a Yid to Hashem, to the Neshama. So where are you going to find the true essence of Hashem and the true essence of a Yid? And once you realize the true essence of a Yid, then you realize it's just you in that moment, with Hashem in that moment, being created in that moment. And there's nothing else. Sounds good? And this whole thing will take 4.5 minutes. Right? Now usually, actually, the Hizbanis I do is longer. It's a 15-minute session. Much more intense than the 4.5 minutes, because we go into other inyanim. But we'll just do 4.5 minutes. And if you don't feel like there's nothing else but Hashem in this moment, your money will be given back to you, guaranteed.
No money. No money paid for nothing.
Just joking.
That's free of the gift.
This is free.
Yes, it's free. Okay, so look, this is how it works. I'm going to give over images, right? I'm going to describe what these images look like. You're going to absorb these images in your mind. This is what I would call guided Hizbanis, but in English, they're calling it guided mental imagery. Because that mental picture you're creating in your mind is a mental image. I'm guiding you in the mental image. This is like the lingo people are using these days. So it's guided mental imagery. Now, guided mental imagery is something you do all the time. That whenever you describe anything in your life to somebody else, they are absorbing that description in their mind. Person goes on vacation, comes back to the office. Co-worker says, "How's your vacation? How's your whatever? How's your Shabbos in the Catskills?" Right now we're coming to summer, and you had an amazing Shabbos in the Catskills, and you suddenly get a flash of that Shabbos in the Catskills in your mind, and you start describing that Shabbos to your coworker based on the image in your mind. As your coworker listens, that image of your Shabbos starts developing in their mind. And once it's fully developed, your coworker will have an emotional reaction. That was an awesome Shabbos. So the same thing we're doing here. I'm going to describe images, you're going to absorb them, and you're going to have automatic feeling of those images. Because that's just the way the mind works. Whatever you think about, you feel, right? So that's all. So therefore, if we think about pizza, we start salivating. So guess what happens when we think about Hashem? We start having an awakening. Same story, lahavdil, right? So now, and we'll meet in 4.5 minutes, and we'll see how we feel. Now, I generally tell people not to look at me, because you're looking at how I express myself, how I move my hands, how my eyebrows move, or something. This is all visual imagery. And we want to emphasize the images in the recesses of your mind. So therefore, don't look at me, you kind of just stare down, and I won't look at you. I'm going to stare down. Keep your eyes open, because we want to be very conscious of the images in our mind, and sometimes people get a little flighty, they get a little emotional, abstract, spiritual type of thing, but we're just going to stay put. So just kind of look down, stare blankly. And those of you at home, watching, or do the same at home, shut off all your cell phones, don't look at it, don't be distracted on your computer screen, and we'll meet in 4.5 minutes. So this approach to living the moment is based on realizing how the world does not exist on its own, but rather it's being propelled to be, much like a rock is being propelled to fly on high by the power of a throw. So let us first imagine a rock. Literally imagine a rock in its initial state on the ground. That rock would never fly on high unless there was an external force of a throw propelling that rock off the ground and into the sky. As long as that force is there, the rock flies on high. Should that force stop, the rock would fall back down into its initial state on the ground. According to Kabbalah, the same thing is with our world. Our world also had an initial state, a state of non-existence. In order to get our world out of its state of non-existence and into existence, there had to have been the external force of a throw, a force of creation propelling our world to exist. As long as that force is there, the world exists. Should that force stop, the world would fall back down into a state of non-existence. In order to imagine this, let's imagine what was before the world. And you'd imagine a state of absolute nothingness. You'd imagine a state in which there's no up and there's no down, no right, no left, no you, no me, nothingness. According to Kabbalah, in that absolute state of nothingness was an ever-pervading, infinitely expansive, all-inclusive emanation of God. And this, that there was no up and no down, no right, no left, was because all was one. Now, let us consider our world. Our world is the exact opposite. In our world, there's a real up and a real down, a real right, a real left. You, me, people, places, things. And therefore, nothing seems as though it's one. And instead, our lives seem like a conglomerate of isolated fragments that we're forever trying to bring together into sync. To the degree that they come together, we say life is good. To the degree they don't, we say life is difficult. And we have to wonder, what happened to that pre-world sense of oneness? Did this world displace that sense of oneness? Like you would imagine a rock falling into water displaces the water around? On the one hand, you would say yes, for we don't sense that feeling of oneness in our lives. But on the other hand, you have to say no, for we're talking about the oneness of God. And God is a constant, whether there's a world or where there's not. So the question is, how can we reconcile this? Kabbalah reconciles this by focusing on the concept of an essence. For according to Kabbalah, an essence is something that just is, standing alone to itself. On the level of the essence, there's nothing else but the essence. And therefore, the essence is unfathomable to the human mind. For as soon as you picture it, it's not the essence, but rather an emanation of the essence, filtering into your mind to give you a picture of the essence. But the essence, just as it is, standing alone to itself, is beyond us. In Hebrew, the word for essence is etzem. Ayin tzadik mem. E-T-Z-E-M. Etzem. And therefore, when Hasidus wants to refer to the essence of God, Chassidus conjugates etzem as atzmas. For atzmas is where God exists just as He is, standing alone to Himself. On the level of atzmas, there's nothing else but Him. Before the world was created, atzmas was emanating spiritually as an ever-pervading, infinitely expansive, all-inclusive emanation. And there's no up, and there's no down, there's no right, no left, for all was one. And after the world was created, atzmas is still emanating, but no longer emanating spiritually, but rather physically, within the very physicality of the world itself, as a godly force propelling the world to be. Should you tap into this force, then everything in this world that's up, and everything that's down, everything to the right, everything to the left, you, me, people, places, things, will all come together as one. And then all the isolated fragments of your life will come together as one. And all success will come. In order to tap into this force, you'd have to tap into your essence. For it's in your essence where you exist just as you are, standing alone to yourself, engulfed in a godly force is propelling you to be you. And there's nothing else. So that is a 4.5-minute rendition. And this concept that there's nothing else but this, the etzem of Hashem that's propelling your etzem to exist. The Rebbe, there's different ways a person can find an achdus with Hashem. Chassidus talks about achdus Hashem on the side of the neshama. The soul is a piece of God, Mama Mamash, Chalak Alakah. But that's a unity of Hashem, spiritual unity of Hashem, detached from your physical reality. This is finding unity of Hashem in the Gashmias, in the physicality. This is Dir B'Tachtainim. This is the concept of making a dwelling place for God in the physical world, in which the physical world reflects God. How? Because it's being created every second. There's a midrash that describes Rabbi Akiva talking to a certain Roman. You know, they always had the Hokhmah were always having these debates with different Romans, philosophy. So they went to the Rabbi Akiva and they said, prove me there's a God. Right? Romans are idolatrous people. No God. Prove me there's a God. He says, oh, it's very simple. Who created your sweater? Or tunic, or whatever it was. He says, well, a tailor. Prove it. What are you talking about? If I have a tunic, obviously it was created by a tailor. Same thing, if you have physicality, obviously there's a God. Where else could it come from? Right? If the natural state of the world is not to exist, if it's existing, it's like that rock. Every single second it's being propelled to be. So just look at the physicality reveals the kayach of God that's creating the world. There's a God. If that's in your mind, engraved in your mind in that mental image, that's what you see. Hashem. That, the Rebbe explains, is the true unity between the Yesh and Nivra and the Yesh and Miti. Yesh and Nivra is the created being. The rock, the table, our bodily senses, my bodily desires, my hunger, my desire for good times, for pleasure. This is a Yesh and Nivra. There's no God there. It's a yesh. It exists. So if I want a unity with Hashem, I have to remove all this yeshus. I have to get to the neshama. All the Hasidic terminology, the skafia, eshavcha. Maybe other generations they could do it. I don't know. We try. But if you want the true unity with the Yesh and Nivra, that the Yesh and Nivra, my Yeshus, should be one with Hashem, that's going to happen when the Yesh and Nivra knows he's a Yesh and Nivra, and he's a Davar b'fnei atzma, he's a thing that exists unto himself, only because Hashem's making him exist that way. As soon as the Yesh and Nivra feels that he exists only because Hashem is making him exist, all the Yeshus goes away. But he's still a Yesh and Nivra. He's a Yesh and Nivra without that negative Yeshus. Without his existence being a contradiction to God. And now his existence reflects the God. Just by the fact that he exists. That's your essence. You exist just you as you are. And this is a very interesting darga, this level you as you are. You know, Shmoneh Esrei, Ata Kadosh v'Shimcha Kadosh. You are holy and your name is holy. There's two levels of Hashem. Hashem's name is holy and you, Hashem, are holy. So Rabbi explains in a Sikha that there's two aspects to a person. There's your name, and that's how you're called on, so that someone else can recognize you. Can distinguish you from somebody else. You could distinguish yourself from other people, your personality, your thoughts. But then there's the you level, the very essence of you that doesn't even need a name, that existed even before you're given a name. That's your essence. And Hashem also has a you level. He has his names, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Elokim, each thing means a different thing, different manifestation of Hashem, different meat of Hashem. But then you have the essence of Hashem, you as you are. Staying as you are unto yourself. And that's where Yisrael v'kudshabrichu kol echad, the Rebbe explains. That the Yidden and Hashem are one, comes out where Hashem's you, L'Lamayla, and you, Lamata, are one. In that essence stage. As you just are, standing alone to yourself, engulfed in the godly forces, propelling you to be you. Hashem's propelling you to be the Yesh Nivra, just as you're Yesh Nivra. Just as you are. And that's the true unity between the physical and Hashem. At that quintessential stage. That, the Rebbe explains, is a Gilui Mashiach. That Dir B'Tachtoni means that the essence of Hashem, Atzmusa Yisparach, will be revealed in the physical world. That will happen when Mashiach comes. Because until Mashiach comes, the physical world has not been purified. It's the Yesh Nivra stands as a contradiction to Hashem. Your existence is a contradiction to Hashem. No offense. And then once it becomes purified, then your very existence will not be a contradiction to Hashem. It will reveal Hashem. And that's going to happen when Mashiach comes. Right? So now, this is a Gili Atzmas, the Gili, the essence of Hashem, in the Etzem of a Yid. What does the Rebbe come to do now? To megala that level in us. What was the Rebbe kochen in all these inyanim of Atzmas? It happened after Koach Nisan Tashin and Aleph. Koach Nisan Tashin and Aleph, the Rebbe said, I did all I could do to bring Mashiach. Now you guys got to do it. And everyone's saying Ad Masai, and everyone's saying we want Mashiach now. They're not serious about it. Why? Because they're in a Gullus Panimi. They're in an inner exile, trapped by their yeshus, right, by their selfishness. But if they would really mean it, say it and mean it, the Mashiach would come already. Then what did the Rebbe do after Kerech Nisan Tafshin and Aleph, 1991? All these sichas out of this world on how to live Mashiach. And what's how to live Mashiach? Atzmas, always talking about how Hashem's creating the world every single second, the essence of the soul, that's higher than this, higher than that, all the level of this etzem level. Where was this sicha that I found of the Frierdiker Rebbe, in which nothing else exists at the moment, and the Rebbe is telling them, that was Tafshin Lamed. Where was the footnote? In footnote 42. Of which sicha? Pinchas Nun Aleph. Is all part of that. What's the sicha talking about? They call it the living in the moment sicha. That a person is supposed to focus on every thought, speech, and action of that which they're doing. Why? Because there's a kayach atzmas, there's a power of the essence of Hashem that's creating the world every single second that makes that second the tachlis hakavana, the ultimate second of all creation. And at that moment there's nothing else but you. And that, the Rebbe says, puts a person to a state of Mashiach. And that's why we're doing this. Live a life of stress, worry, anxiety. I'm not your psychologist. I'm not your therapist. I'm a Chabad rabbi. This is not a textbook of psychology. This is Hasidus. Our goal is to connect to Etzem of Hashem. Just you can't connect to Etzem of Hashem if you're stressed. It's a contradiction. Steer and mean obey. So therefore, we'll talk about not living a life devoid. We'll talk about live a life devoid of stress or anxiety. But the mechanism is Hashem. And that is not the goal. The goal is to be with Hashem. That's just the test. How do I know if I'm doing it? If I'm stressed. If I know I'm not doing it, if I'm stressed. How do I know I'm doing it if I'm not stressed? That's just the test. Now I have a way to test. It's a very big problem. You hit a certain level, you have to have some kind of criteria. Am I there or not? How's a tzaddik v'tayvlai know he's a tzaddik v'tayvlai versus a tzaddik v'ravlai? How do you know? They're both tzaddikim. They're completely righteous. This guy has zero Yetzer Hara left in him. And this guy has a Yetzer Hara left in him, but it's like he's like dead, what's not inside of him, like quiet. So how would I know who I am? I need some kind of test. I need some kind of measurement. You know. If he is disgusted by evil. If he's so disgusted by evil, as soon as he contacts with evil, he disgusts him. Sinas and Asim, complete hate. You know why he has such a disgust? Because evil has nothing to do with him. It's disgusting. But if he's got a little evil in him, he's not going to be so disgusted by it. If I'm a liar, and I see someone else lie, no, it happens, people lie. If I'm completely honest, oh my gosh, he lied! It was a terrible thing! If you have a little bit inside of you, then you're not going to be so hateful, disgusted by it. But if you have nothing inside of you, then you hate. So how do I know that I'm really connecting to the essence of Hashem? If I be like the Frierdiker Rebbe, no stress or anxiety. So l'chaim, thank you so much for having me. Should be the beginning of a spiritual search to truly connect to the essence of Hashem, the essence of your neshama, to live a life devoid of stress or anxiety. This is Nice Fabrigan. If you ever want to come to my website, you're more than welcome. I don't shut it off and I don't block people out, so you can come whenever you want. redefinetime.com. It's a 6-step process to living in the moment, not just the first step that we kind of talked about now and gave you a rendition of, but there's higher levels, more sichas to get you all the way to Torah mitzvahs. Because this should your etzem connection to Hashem ultimately is going to be reflected not in the abstract hisbainus, the abstract thoughts of your mind, but in ma'aseh b'payil, in the fulfillment of the mitzvahs.
Thank you.